Good afternoon, students. We welcome you to the second session of Paper 1 Accounting of Intermediate course. Our honorable guest for today is C. Abhay Chajar, who is the Central Council member, and he's also the Vice Chairman of Accounting Standard Board. And he's having the varied experience in the accounting as well as in many other areas, but specifically he's going to take you through as to how you need to deal with the paper and how you need to apply the accounting standards for your paper. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vandana Madam and Seema Madam, who's there as also the faculty of Board of Studies. So thank you once again for this opportunity, and good afternoon to all my dear students who will be the future chartered accountants and joining this very noble profession. And I wish you all the very best for the upcoming exams. And like Madam Vandana has, she's already mentioned about, the important paper. If I talk about the inter paper 1 accounting, that is the paper you start your exam with. And so I think here important is your preparation, so that the first paper, when done with proper preparation, proper practice, I think the entire flow of the exams, goes on well. So it is so important that you plan. Of course, each paper you have to give to your best of abilities, but when you give your exam for the first time, for those who are giving for the first time, and I'm sure most of you, so there, it's so important that you prepare, plan in a way that you begin your exam well. So, it's well begin as half done, it's always said. So I think there you'll have to be really prepared and, understand what is important in paper 1 of intermediate of accounting. So more importantly, if I talk about being the vice chairman of the accounting standard board, the application of accounting standards, because for those who have already prepared, who are preparing, the accounting standards are so very important. And to have the concept clear, write the exams based on the concept where you have done a lot of practice in these accounting standards, proper referencing of these standards at questions which you are attempting. So I think it is so important in terms of standards which are applicable for this intermediate accounting paper 1, the accounting policies of disclosures, the evaluation of inventory, the cash flow statements, property, plant and equipment. Wherever there are changes, I think you'll have to look at it, and whatever the amendments which have been done, now it has to be seriously looked at. The effect of changes, AS 11, where it is foreign exchange rates, or for that matter AS 12, 13, 16. So all those, 16 again is an important standard in terms of borrowing cost, because this is also linked to AS 10 and 16. You'll have to study in a way that you are able to attempt the questions if both the AS have been covered in terms of property, plant, equipment, and AS 16. Again, if I talk about the company, the accounts, how you prepare. So financial statements, the statement of profit and loss, balance sheet, I'm sure cash flow statements, you must be preparing well. The, accounting for bonus issues, right issues, now it's been covered. More particularly, I would say, our study material, which is issued by the ICI, is so well prepared. One of the faculties already, she is here, and I can vouch that, there are students in past I've seen that they have not been able to even get time to refer study material. But I would sincerely request all of you here today and your friends that please do not miss reading the study material, because I think for any institution, the study material issued from that institute would be the key for clearing the exam. So please ensure that this is taken as a priority and a primary study material for you to prepare for the exam. Classes, of course, you do attend classes, you prepare yourself, but don't miss the reading of study material, the practical questions which are there in material, the theoretical part which has been covered in the material has all been well read, understood, conceptually is clarified, and wherever there are doubts have been discussed with your seniors, with your friends, and you have complete clarity of how it has to be attempted in the exam. more particularly, I would say the special type of accounting where there is departmental accounting, accounting for branches, including foreign branches, accounts from incomplete records. So all this should be well prepared before you go and give your exam. And I would say this being the accounting, accounting is the basic for an auditor. If you are a good accountant, you'll always be a good auditor. That is my thinking and thought process. So please understand, do well, study well, and few uh, tips I can share for your preparation before you appear for the exam. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you must be hearing and getting information from where you study with among your friends, or where you've joined classes, where institute material you are reading, or you are referring to all those live classes which are there. It's so important that you select the questions that you are attempting. Day one, there is little nervousness. So important that you should see the paper, spend time with the question paper, and decide the question you want to attempt the first. Mark those questions in a way that this is what you'll attempt first. There is absolutely never an issue which question is to be answered first. You should pick up the best question which you want to uh, give it, pick up from the order and write the answers accordingly. So best question should be attempted first and then in the order. So spend time with the question paper. Be careful while using the information which is given. There are certain information notes also which are part of the questions, where sometimes you don't read it, or because of less availability of time, there are problems that you may not read actual what has been given as an additional information, or some information is missed out while attempting the question. So please understand that these questions, whichever is picked up based on your base selection, you read them properly, understand them properly, and then write it. So far as the accounting standard is concerned, please ensure that you have a thorough understanding of these standards. Try to pick up those questions which have been which are appeared in past, where you will have answers. It is so important that you know the accounting standard, but sometimes you write the wrong reference of the accounting standard, or give a wrong para of accounting standard in any answer which you have given in the questions. So there, it is completely, then the valuers take it so differently, and you may not get even a single mark sometimes if a wrong reference is given or a para is picked up wrongly. So wherever there is doubt, please don't you miss the reference, don't bother about it, but please do write the correct reference of the accounting standard. If not available, don't worry, but don't give a wrong accounting standard number. That is what my suggestion is. Time, of course, try to prepare yourself in a way that you at least give 10 to 15 minutes for each questions you are appearing, because there are certain sections in the questions. Then you'll have to prepare yourself. Sometimes you take more time in giving the first question, which is the best question which you have selected, but still you have to decide on the how much time you want to give to that question, and then accordingly plan, so that in that 3 hours time you are able to complete the entire paper to the best of your knowledge, understanding, and with proper referencing. So please make sure that wherever, again, there are a lot of calculations, there are computations which you have to do, apply the correct concept knowledge. But there are cases where students make mistake due to reasons like consideration of wrong figures, addition, deletion, subtraction, sometimes wrongly done because you are in quick, you have less time and you want to finish the answer quickly. So there, sometimes it gets the reverse. So please ensure that this is well taken care. And wherever there are, while solving the numerical questions, be alert and conscious about the calculations and amounts which are used in the solution. So, these are certain examination tips I thought I could share with you based on my experience. But again, a very important part is the study material, the planning of your time, the approach which you follow in preparing yourself for the first paper of which is accounting. And I think, like I said, well began is half done. Prepare yourself. Don't miss any a section of those study material which is there of the institute, and practice a lot. Spend some time each day in accounting wherever you are away from a theoretical paper, but do practice. More the practice, better for you, and less the time. And again, a very important point is sometimes students don't do writing practice. So please ensure that when you are starting your first paper, you have written at least all the papers once for 3 hours, so that at least when you write on day one, your writing speed is well maintained. Because sometimes you forget just reading and you don't practice too much, don't write too much. But please ensure that you give your exams mock test before you appear the actual exam, so that your practice speed is well maintained and you can finish the paper well on time. One last suggestion I would like to give is, whichever pen you have decided, this may be not related to the paper which you'll accounting, but just a suggestion that whichever pen you have decided, you'll be using on the day of your exam and for all the exams, please practice with that specific pen only. Don't try to use those pens differently before the exam and use a different pen after you are on the date of exam or onwards. You should have the same pen used for all 3 months, 2 months, 5 months, whatever your preparation time for the exam. So this was from my side for whatever best I could suggest, my experiences. And of course, I also thank Vandana Madam, the Board of Studies. She's been handling for so many years, and Seema Madam, who's here as a faculty from Board of Studies. Thanks again for giving me this opportunity, and I could share my experience, whatever I can, and would be happy, to interact with the students, maybe sometimes in future, given an opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for your these specific tips, only which you could have given from your experience. And since you being the Vice Chairman of the Accounting Standard Board, none other can tell you about the importance of the accounting standards. And sir, the way you have explained it to the students, I think it's really going to be very helpful for them. And small tips make a difference to the students, and especially when the time, only 2 months are there before the exams.
Correct.
So thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome. Thank you. And with your permission, I can leave this meeting.
Anyway, sir, sir, yes, you can. You may leave, sir, and we'll carry on with the session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Right. So students, just now you have heard CA Abhay Chajar. He has given you specific tips about the exam, and especially this being the first paper in the intermediate. So you need to be very careful in reading the questions. He has asked you to read the question properly. Don't miss the additional points which you need to cover in your paper, right? And plan out which question you have to attempt first. And please mind that the question you know very well, don't spend too much time on that. You need to apportion your time to all the questions, right? So that this is the way you are able to attend your paper in the best of the manner. So students, yesterday, CA Seema and CA Asha had apprised you about the amendments, latest amendments which are applicable, and the amendments till 30th of April 2022 are relevant for your November exam. She has also apprised you about the addition of the material which you need to read. She has also informed you about the amendments, and section-wise weightage and skill-wise weightage has also been communicated to you. And yesterday, you were apprised about the accounting standard 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? So all these standards were covered, and the questions relating to them were covered. So in today's session, we are going to cover accounting standard 16, company accounts, investment accounts, insurance claims, branch and departmental accounts. So these aspects will be covered today, along with the questions relating to these topics. And wherever you feel you are uncomfortable, you are not able to understand, you can always send the query, and your faculty, your own faculty, CA Seema, will be taking care of that. Okay, so students, just Note down the tips which are required for attempting the questions. Our faculty is there for you. They're going to explain you everything. And students might just note down 2-3 more things. We are having our ICI mobile app. BoS mobile app is there. You can send your query on the mobile app in the Ask Your Query section, particularly for that particular paper. Even after today's session, if you still have some more queries, you can post the queries and your queries will be resolved. If you have not downloaded the mobile app, do download the app. It is really going to help you. Everything is posted over there: revisionary test papers, suggested answers, material, latest amendments, mock test papers will also be uploaded over there, right? And students, before the exam starts, we are also having the capsules. So in the quick referencer, which is uploaded on the BoS knowledge portal, we have also given the capsules in level wise and group wise. So you can go through these particular capsules, which will help you in the last minute preparation before your examination. Right, students? So after 26th of September, we are also going to start with a mock test series 1 and series 2. So attend those papers. If you are able to go to your nearest branch, go over there and attempt the question in examination conditions. In any case, if you are not able to go to the branch, you can download the paper from the BoS knowledge portal, attempt the paper, check it from the answers which we have given. We'll be hosting after 48 hours. Compare your answers with the answers given in the answers which we have uploaded on the BoS knowledge portal and check where you have missed. So these are the things you keep in mind and you'll be able to do very well. Now I am giving the mic and the session to CA Seema Gupta. Seema, please carry forward.
Thank you, ma'am. We will start the session with the accounting standard, which we were discussing yesterday in yesterday's session. It was accounting standard 16 on borrowing cost, which we were discussing yesterday, and we covered till AS 13. Now we will be taking the problem which we left yesterday. It's on AS 16 borrowing cost. AS 16 is on borrowing cost. As you all know that borrowing costs are specifically incurred for the purpose of obtaining loan, and these are the costs which may be associated with qualifying asset or non-qualifying asset. So any asset which takes substantial period of time for its completion, it's not ready for use when we acquire it, and it takes a longer period of time so that we can use it, it becomes a qualifying asset. Now in this particular question which we have taken from the last suggested answers, it is given to us that the entity obtained a term loan from a bank for rupees 320 lakhs. And for this, from this amount of 320 lakhs, the amount of expenditure in the various categories has also been given to us. From what was the expenditure from this particular amount to different heads. If we are buying any asset which is ready for use, it is not a qualifying asset. So this amount of interest belonging to this particular asset will not be capitalized, but it will be charged to profit and loss statement. It will be taken as an expense. It will not be capitalized. So this amount is 320 lakhs, and we are using this 320 lakhs in different categories of heads, which we can see. Construction for factory shed is rupees 240 lakhs. Purchase of machinery is 30 lakhs. For working capital, we are using 24 lakhs. For purchase of vehicles, we are using 12 lakhs. And advance for tools and cranes is 8 lakhs. And purchase of technical know-how is 6 lakhs. Now we have to understand the provisions of AS 16. What AS 16 says? AS 16 says that all the borrowing costs which have been incurred by the entity during the year will have to be segregated into two heads. That will have to be divided into two heads. One, where we have taken the specific borrowings. We have taken the borrowings for a specific asset. If the borrowing is specific, then the interest pertaining to this borrowing, we can clearly bifurcate that if this pertains to qualifying asset, it will go to asset head. That means it will be capitalized. This is a question on AS 16 borrowing cost. Here, it is given that the entity obtained a term loan from the bank amounting rupees 320 lakhs. So this is a loan amount, and the interest charged by the bank for the year was 40 lakh on this particular loan amount. As the AS 16 clearly says that for the borrowing cost, we have to divide what cost is being incurred for the purpose of qualifying asset or what cost is being incurred for other assets or other expenditures. If any borrowing is related to qualifying asset, it is specifically mentioned in the question that this particular amount is related with qualifying asset. Then the interest pertaining to that particular qualifying asset is to be capitalized and not to be taken to statement of profit and loss account. That is not to be charged to profit and loss account. And if it is non-qualifying asset means any asset which does not take substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use. It means either the asset is ready when we bought it, it was ready for its use, we took the loan, we purchased the asset and we started using it. It means the interest component for this particular loan amount which has been used for the purpose of obtaining that machinery or that asset is not a borrowing cost which can be capitalized. It has to be taken to profit and loss account. So from this particular question, now it's very clear that we have what we are supposed to write in the answer on this particular question. First of all, we will define what is a qualifying asset as per AS 16. We can simply not proceed to the calculation part, but we have to write the provision of the accounting standard also, and we have to substantiate our calculation with the logical reasoning. Why we are dividing this interest amount in two heads and why we are dividing this particular borrowing cost to P&L account and we are not capitalizing it to the cost of the qualifying asset. So as per the standard, a qualifying asset is an asset that takes necessary substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use or sale, and substantial period of time AS itself defines that 1 year is considered to be a substantial period of time unless and until some other period is justified, and we have to justify that period based on the facts. The company has to justify that. But otherwise, AS 16 clearly says that 1 year is said to be the substantial period of time. Now, in this particular case, in the question, it was given to us that 240 lakhs was expenditure which was spent on construction of factory shed, and 30 lakh is being incurred for purchase of machinery. So 30 lakh is incurred for the ready to use asset. It is not a qualifying asset. Working capital is again a not qualifying asset. It's non-qualifying asset. Purchase of vehicles is again non-qualifying asset. Some advance we are paying for tools or cranes. That is also non-qualifying asset. And purchase of technical know-how, if we are spending some amount out of this, then we have to charge it to profit and loss account. It means, now coming back to the answer, it means only qualifying asset is 240 lakhs amount of loan. On that particular loan amount, whatever the interest amount is there, that can be charged to the cost of this particular qualifying asset, that is on shed, and the rest has to be taken to profit and loss account. So the total borrowing cost was 40 lakhs, but this borrowing cost was on 320 lakhs. So 40 lakhs has to be proportionately divided between 240 and 320 lakhs, and the amount of interest which relates to the borrowing of 240 lakhs, that has to be only considered as the amount which is pertaining to the cost of qualifying asset, and that much amount only has to be taken to has to be capitalized to the cost of this particular qualifying asset. So this accounting standard clearly states that if the borrowings are non-specific in nature, if the borrowings are non-specific in nature, then we have to divide the cost of the borrowing pertaining to those particular assets or expenditures, and we have to proportionately see what amount pertains to the cost of qualifying asset. From the facts given in the question, we have to calculate the weighted capitalization rate. We have to calculate the capitalization rate, and then we can proceed further. In this particular question also, we were supposed to charge a proportionate amount to this, and what amount is remaining, like 40 lakhs, out of 40 lakhs, 30 lakhs is the amount of interest which is pertaining to the cost of qualifying assets. So it has to be capitalized, and the rest has to be taken to profit and loss statement. In this particular question, first of all, we have to write that what is a qualifying asset and what are the borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition construction of a qualifying asset, which should be capitalized as part of the cost of asset. Other borrowing costs should be recognized as expense in the period in which they are incurred. So this is the theory base on which we are solving this particular answer. If we do not substantiate the answer with the provisions of AS 16 and we do not substantiate the answer with this particular theory portion, provision of accounting standard, we will lose marks. And in accounting standard based questions, as we have discussed yesterday also, we cannot justify the answer by just giving the calculation if the measurement is required in the question, but we also are required to substantiate our answer with the provisions of accounting standards. It means we have to refer the provisions of the accounting standards also. We are not quoting any PAN number here in the answer. That is not required, because if we do not remember the PAN number and we write the wrong number, that will also give a deduction of marks in the answer. We do not want that, and we want that at least 20 to 25 marks from the accounting standards portion we can grab, and we can really work upon those areas where we can get the full marks. So now accounting standard portion is complete. We have understood the problems on accounting standards, how to write the answers, how to justify the answers with giving substantially the reference of accounting standards, reasoning where is required, and then we can give the complete answer. If the question asks us to give the journal entries, then we have to give journal entries. If the question asks us to give the treatment, then we have to give the treatment. AS 16 and AS 11 may be combined for a particular problem on accounting standard, and there can be a single problem where AS 16 and AS 11 can be combined. So effects of foreign exchange rate in borrowing cost can also be combined, and that type of problem is also given in the study material. You can refer that. If we will get time after completion of certain other topics, we will also take that problem. Now come to very important chapter, very important section in our study material, which is company accounts. The weightage of this particular section is around 30 to 35%. It means around 35 to 40 marks portion will be definitely asked in the question paper from this particular section. Chapter 4, Unit 1. In this particular section, we will be having one full-fledged question on preparation of financial accounts. So first of all, this is section 4. And from this particular section, what type of questions can come? What type of questions are expected to be asked from this particular section? We are having here chapter 4, Unit 1 and Unit 2. From Unit 1, either we can have a small question based on managerial remuneration, or we can have a small question based on effective capital calculation, the amount of dividend that can be given by the company as per the provisions of Companies Act and other prescribed regulations. Unit 2, we are having on cash flow statement. Cash flow statement has to be prepared in line with AS3, the provisions of AS3 we discussed yesterday. We also explained the classification of cash flow activities from the question which we discussed yesterday. There are queries. Mr. Bun Reddy, you have asked that are capsules amended as per the latest amendments? Here's the capsules given in the BoS knowledge portal. Those capsules you can refer. They have already been amended in line with the amendments which are applicable for the forthcoming examination. Archie, you are asking the borrowing question of AS16. You are not able to understand. Okay, I will brief it again. And in each part of the AS question, we have to write big provision or key points is enough. Actually, we are not required to write the big provisions, or we are not required to write the entire provisions of the accounting standard. We have to connect the accounting standard to the area where the question relate with. Suppose the question asks us to mention about the definition of borrowing cost, or the question asks us to define the substantial period of time, then that much provision only we are required to answer. In this particular question of AS16, suppose we were asked that we had to show the treatment of interest and also explain the nature of asset. Because we were required to explain the nature of asset. Nature of asset means whether it's a qualifying asset or non-qualifying asset. That was the reason why we were supposed to give the complete definition of qualifying asset or non-qualifying asset here. Otherwise, we could have skipped the definition and we could just say that for the purpose of dividing the borrowing cost, we have to see whether the borrowing cost pertain to the qualifying asset or not. If it pertains to the qualifying asset, then that borrowing cost has to be added to the cost of asset. If it does not pertain to the cost of qualifying asset, it does not pertain to the relate to the qualifying asset, then we have to treat it as revenue item and we have to charge it to profit and loss statement. But that much theory we definitely have to write in our answer, because without this we will not be able to substantiate our answer. This is a very simple question where it was given that total amount was 320 lakhs, out of which 240 lakhs was only pertaining to the qualifying asset. The rest, that is 80 lakhs, was relating to non-qualifying asset. So it means when the amount of interest is 40 lakhs interest is basically on 320 lakhs of the borrowing. And we are saying that we have to find out the interest on the loan component of 240 lakhs. It means we have to proportionately calculate the interest amount relating to this 240 lakhs. It comes out to 30 lakhs. So this 30 lakhs only we were supposed to take it to the cost of, we have to capitalize it. I think it's clear now. Now coming back to the section 4. Now in unit 1 of chapter 4, we have discussed that what type of the questions can be asked from this particular section. We may be given certain items where we may be asked that you have to bifurcate those items and you have to show in schedule 3. You have to write where they will be shown under schedule 3, in which category they will be shown under schedule 3 format. Maybe statement of profit or loss item, or maybe balance sheet item. So these are the questions which can be asked for 5 marks. 5 marks question can be based on either managerial remuneration or effective capital calculation or disclosure in schedule 3 format. It means you may be given certain items and you may be asked to show the disclosure part of those items under schedule 3, where they will be put in the balance sheet of the company. Hardik is asking, can 2 questions 20 marks each may be asked from this particular section? No, generally not. From this particular section, 1 full-fledged question may be asked and other question may be of 5 marks or 10 marks. Like on cash flow statement, 10 marks question may be asked. And maybe on manager remuneration, effective capital calculation, there may be 5 marks question each. Yes, definitely. Archie, you are asking that AS can be mentioned in practical question also in exams if needed. Yes, definitely. In practical questions also, if some treatment of AS is required, then we have to do the treatment accordingly, and we have to give a note that why we are doing this treatment. In certain questions, as we discussed yesterday also in disclosure of accounting policies question, if some facts are missing in the question, or there is a situation where we can have more than one alternative possible in the question, then we have to give both the options, or we can just simply say that we have done our solution in this basis, alternative answer may be possible. So we have to justify our answer, we have to mention all the assumptions which we are taking while solving the question in the examination question paper. We have to write in our answer sheet that this is a basis on the basis of which we have written this particular answer, because maybe the other person might have done it other way, and we may lose marks if we have not justified the basis of solving our answer. Shipra is asking, in the questions asked for managerial remuneration and effective capital, is there step marking or the final amount is only checked? My dear students, in all the papers, in all the questions, we are having the scheme of step marking. For each and every step of your working, you will get marks if you have done that step clearly. But there are certain steps which may have cascading effects on the other steps of the question, or maybe due to which the final figure you are getting is incorrect. So only that much marks you are losing, you may lose due to that figure, but all the workings involved in the various steps where you are right, where you have done the correct working, you will not lose marks, and be assured that you will get step mark for each and every step you have done correctly. Where you have done something wrong conceptually, or where you have done some wrong calculation, there you will definitely lose marks. So in questions involving managerial remuneration, as you can see from the study material also, we are giving a recap of it, that there are overall maximum managerial remuneration limits which have been prescribed under section 197. The total managerial remuneration should not exceed 11% of the net profits of that company. If some single whole-time director or person is there, then the limit for that particular person is 5%. Otherwise, for such category of directors, it's 10%. But in total, the overall managerial remuneration in any financial year should not exceed 11% of the net profits of the company. However, if the company is having losses, or the company is not having sufficient profits, then this 11% ceiling is not applicable, and these amounts will be applicable. You have to calculate the effective capital. That is the reason why the concept of effective capital calculation has come into picture in this chapter. Because in that case, the managerial remuneration has to be calculated in accordance with the effective capital limits. If the effective capital is negative or less than 5 crore, then this is the amount. If the effective capital is 5 crore and above but less than 100 crore, then 84 lakh is the amount, and so on. These limits are clearly mentioned in the question. The question asked in the question paper may be based on calculation of effective capital, and it may also require you to give the limit of yearly remuneration payable, which the company should not pay beyond that, which the company is not allowed to pay beyond that. So how will you calculate effective capital? Effective capital will be calculated as the aggregate of the paid up capital, if any amount you have received for which you have not allotted the shares to them, it means you have received some advance money, that amount will not be included under this. This is only the paid up share capital for which we have already issued the shares. The amount lying in securities premium account, all reserves and surplus, but the revaluation reserve does not form part of it. And long-term loans and deposits repayable after 1 year. Now this is a effective capital, but it has to be reduced. It has to be reduced by the aggregate of any investments. If you have done any investment, that has to be reduced from this, or any losses or preliminary expenses are there which you have not written off. So that also has to be reduced from the from this amount which you have calculated here. Now, if the company is a non-investment company, then it's fine. But if the company is an investment company, then the value of the investment will have not to be considered for exclusion. So now we have taken a very simple question in which we are calculating the effective capital. We are giving the information where we are we are being provided with the paid up capital, equity as well as preference, and some amount is lying in share suspense account. Now we have to decide about the nomenclature of this account, share suspense account. If the information relating to this is given in the question, we have to consider it. If it is not given in the question, then we have to make an assumption and solve the question accordingly. Out of capital reserve, 1,50,000 is revaluation reserve, so only 45,000 will be considered here. 1,50,000 is revaluation reserve, which will not become part of the effective capital. Securities premium, no doubt in this, it will also be covered. And these are secured loans. Secured loans will be reduced, public deposits and cash credit loan. This is a short-term loan, so it will not be considered. Now, under share suspense account, it's clearly given that it is a application money received on shares, the allotment of which is not yet due. It means that the problem is solved because the question itself gives us the detailing about the share application money which is pending for allotment. So it means we are not supposed to consider this as part of effective capital. So now we are taking both the situations for this particular question, when this particular entity is a investment company and when this particular entity is a non-investment company. So under this, there is no doubt about equity share capital and preference share capital. It will be covered here. Capital reserves for both the cases will be covered, excluding revaluation reserve. So this amount we are deducting because of revaluation reserve, because it is revaluation reserve, and revaluation reserve is not to be considered while calculating effective capital. Then securities premium is there. Securities premium we have to take under both the situations. Debentures and public deposits we have to consider under both the situations, but any short-term loan that we are not supposed to consider, so we are not taking any short-term loan. Investments will be reduced if it's a investment company, and if it's a non-investment company, then investments. If it's a non-investment company, then investments will be reduced, and if it's investment company, then investment will not be considered. So this is a way how we can derive the effective capital. You can see we have to add all these items which are coming on the equity and liability side, and then we will be considering the investment and profit and loss account, debit balance, and we will reduce these balances from the total which we had arrived here. So if it's a non-investment company, then investments will be deducted while calculating effective capital, and if it's a investment company, then it will not be considered, it will not be reduced. So this is a calculation of effective capital. Generally, this type of question is asked in the examination for 5 marks. Now, this is a question relating to managerial remuneration. We have also discussed why the need of effective effective capital is there, because if the company is not having sufficient profit or the company is having losses, then the 11% of rate of managerial remuneration which has to be paid to directors, managing directors, etc., that rate is not applicable, and we have to consider the new threshold limits which were given for the companies if the companies are not having sufficient amount of profits. So this is a question where we are required to calculate the maximum limit of managerial remuneration. The percentage we know, but what is the profit calculation on the profit amount on which we have to calculate 11%? That profit has also to be determined as per the provisions of Companies Act. So here we are given that the gross profit is this, subsidy received from government is this, and other administrative and selling distribution expenses, director fee, interest on debentures is this. Managerial remuneration we will not consider because we are calculating this. We have to calculate the amount of profit for the purpose of managerial remuneration only. So there definitely there is no point in considering this. Depreciation on plant and property equipment also has to be calculated as per Schedule 2 of the Companies Act and not the amount which is being provided by the company. Provision for taxation, transfer to general reserve, all these amounts will not be considered. So we have only to consider the gross profit and the subsidies received from government, which will be added to it, and what will be reduced, all these amounts will be deducted. All these amounts will be deducted and we will be getting the profit on the basis of which we can calculate the maximum limit of managerial remuneration. So these were the questions which were based on calculation of effective capital and managerial remuneration, which are important aspects of preparation of financial statements of companies. Now we will take a small example on disclosure of particular item in the balance sheet of company. You can see the facts provided in the question to you that the company is having the following item under reserve and surplus in the balance sheet as on 31st March 2021. The amounts are securities premium 80 lakh, capital reserve 60 lakh, general reserve 90 lakh. Now, the company is also having accumulated losses of 250 lakh on the same date. How will we show this? The company is saying that it will disclose it as an asset in the balance sheet because the total amount 80 plus 60, 140 and 140 plus 90, 230. It means there is a debit. There is a debit under the head reserve and surplus. So the company is saying that I will show it under asset head and I will not show it as a reserve and surplus category. So whether the company is correct or not, we have to justify our answer accordingly, because the company has already decided to do the wrong treatment. We have to clarify to the company that as per Schedule 3, what is the right treatment which is to be done. So in this case, the company cannot do this thing. The company cannot show the amount of rupees 20 lakh as a asset, but the company has to treat it under the head reserve and surplus only, but the company can show it as minus 20 on the equity and liability side only. Sometimes a question gives a wrong treatment and we get confused. We are not able to justify that treatment and we simply say that whatever the company is adopting or whatever the company wants to do, that is correct, that may be correct, and you do not give the right treatment. So in this type of question, first of all, what we have to do, we have to say that this treatment done by the company is incorrect. It has to be disclosed under the reserve and surplus head only and not as an asset. And the second aspect is we have to justify that what the company has done, it is incorrect. Now you can take another question. Okay, we will be dealing in Hindi also. So Medha Limited took a loan from bank for rupees 10 lakh. The pre and post incorporation question generally comes for 10 to 12 marks, not beyond that. Yes, but in May 22 examination, the question was it was a full-fledged question on pre and post incorporation profits. So it was for 20 marks. Actually, what is there that from this particular section, the entire company accounts portion, we will be asked one complete full-fledged question, and the other question may be of 10 marks each, or maybe for 5 or plus 5 marks. So that may be the permutation and combination. But if the question is being not asked on preparation of financial statements of company, then we can have a full-fledged question on other topics which are covered in the company accounts portion. But there is no surety as such. Generally, the question is asked on the preparation of financial statements, where we are given the trial balance and we are given important information, other additional information. Considering that information, we have to adjust the items of the trial balance and we have to prepare the financial statement of the company in the format given by Schedule 3. Maximum percentage is 30 to 35% for this company accounts portion, which we are covering, and the section on accounting standards, which we covered yesterday, the proportion was, the weightage was 20 to 25%. So in this particular question, we have to see what is the current maturities of long-term debt. It is given to us that the company has taken amount of rupees 10 lakh as loan in 10 equal installments, and first installment is due on after 6 months. That means first installment is due after 6 months, and the second installment is due on 31st March of the year. So when we are preparing the financial statement, that is a reporting date. Reporting date is 31st March 20x1, and from this particular date I will see that whatever amount I am supposed to pay within a period of 12 months. That is basically current maturities for me. That is current liability for me. Current maturities of long-term debt will be considered for that amount only. So in the particular question, only 2 lakh is the current maturity of the long-term debt, because only 2 installments will be considered. In the referred question, only 2 installments will be considered. And the current maturities of long-term debt will be considered as short-term borrowing and not as current liabilities. They will be disclosed accordingly. So this is a format of Schedule 3, according to which we have to solve all the questions given in Chapter 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, where we can be asked to prepare the balance sheet of the company. Statement of profit and loss can be asked only in Chapter 4, not in any other chapter. But balance sheet can be asked to be prepared, maybe in question of redemption of preference shares, maybe in question of redemption of debentures, or maybe in question of bonus issue also. So the balance sheet may be asked to prepare in any of the questions of these topics, but statement of profit and loss will be asked to be prepared only from Chapter 4. So this format is, we have to prepare all the balance sheets in this format, where we have to write under shareholders fund, we have to write share capital. Under share capital, again, we have to write authorized capital, paid up capital. All heads of capital will be coming here. Equity, preference, All the bifurcations we have to do under this particular head. Then we have reserves and surplus. Under reserves and surplus, again, we have capital reserve, revenue reserve, profit and loss account. All these heads will be coming here. If any amount of surplus is a negative balance, that also will be shown here as debit balance of surplus. That means if we have earned profit, then it's fine. If we have suffered loss during the year, that also will be presented under the head reserves and surplus. Money received against share warrants. If some money is received to us against share warrants, that also will be reflected under shareholders fund. Any application money which is pending for allotment, that also will be reflected here. Under the head non-current liabilities, these items will be presented, and for these classifications, these are the broad headings under which we have to categorize all the items given to us in the question. So on the face of the balance sheet, only these heads will be appearing, but we have to give notes to accounts for each particular head, specifying the details under each particular head. We have to be very specific while framing the balance sheet. We have to be very specific, and proper allocation of the item under the various heads of the balance sheet has to be done. So you can see this. This is all about chapter 4, where the questions can be asked on preparation of financial statements, on managerial remuneration, on calculation of effective capital. Sometimes the question can be framed on the maximum amount of dividend that can be paid by the company. That type of question will also be based on the contents given in the study material. The question may be asked on the various items where the disclosure requirements may be asked. So this is a question. Now we will be coming to chapter 5, where pre-incorporation and post-period concept is being covered. First of all, what is the concept of pre-incorporation and post-incorporation? When the company is being acquired and it is already into operation, before acquiring the incorporation certificate, for that particular period, all the expenses and income we have to divide between pre-incorporation and post-incorporation periods. So the basis of apportionment of the expenses or revenue between both the periods is important, and how we will have to divide those expenses, they have to be considered, and that is a main phenomena under this particular chapter. So the chapter is simple. It involves the concept of allocation of various heads, various items. The basis of allocation of different heads of income and expenditure may be different for different items that we have to see. So this is a very small question which we are taking for this for explaining this particular chapter, where it is given that the company is being incorporated on this date, but the entire year it was running the operations. What is the amount of director's fee? What is the amount of preliminary expenses, salaries and general expenses? How will we determine the basis of apportionment for these particular expenses? Under director's fee, preliminary expenses written off, we will just divide this. Director's fee will go to the company head, so it will be post incorporation. All the expenses which you relate with the post incorporation periods, because they relate to the company. So when the company came into existence from the date of incorporation, all those expenses after that particular date has to go to the post incorporation period. Preliminary expenses again will go to the post incorporation period. Salaries and general expense will have to be divided on the basis of time, on the basis of the time devoted by the employees during the particular part of year. Statutory audit fee, if it relates to the company, and generally it relates to the company, then automatically it will also go under the head of company post incorporation. Commission on traveling agents also on the basis of sales. Sales promotion expenses will be divided also on the basis of sales. Advertisement expenses on the basis of sales. How will you divide the rent expenses? Now, the rent expenses will be divided on the basis of time. If pre-incorporation period, if the total period is suppose 15 months and pre-incorporation period is 3 months, post-incorporation period is 12 months, then it has to be divided accordingly. Bad debts is a selling related expense and it has to be divided on the basis of sales only. So this is about chapter 5. It's a very simple chapter. We are not supposed to acquire any detailed knowledge of this particular chapter. We are just supposed to have to understand the basis of apportionment of different items of expenses or income and how we are supposed to divide those expenses under the head of pre-incorporation and post-incorporation periods. Under pre-incorporation, post-incorporation, how the expenses have to be divided, that is to be judged. This already we have explained. Now, we will be brushing upon the concepts of chapter 6, bonus issue. As you know, bonus issue means capitalization of profits. It means capitalization of profits. So, as far as this chapter is concerned, you may be either asked to prepare the journal entries for the bonus issue. The facts of the issue might be given to you in the question. Or you may be asked to prepare the relevant ledger accounts or the balance sheet of the company after bonus issue. So you have to understand the provisions of the Companies Act for the bonus issue, what type of the reserves you can use, what type of the profits you can use. The question may be given to you where various items of reserves and surplus may be provided to you, but you have to judge that from which account the bonus can be issued. However, the question may be specifying that all the necessary conditions have been complied with for issue of bonus shares. It means what are the necessary conditions? It must have been authorized by the articles of the company. Special necessary resolution might have been passed for the issue of bonus shares. That we need not bother. That is a part of company law and not, we are supposed only to focus on the accounting aspects of bonus issue. What type of entries we are supposed to make, which account we can use for issue of bonus shares, not beyond that. The legal aspects we will be covering in law paper, but not in accounting paper. So here you have to understand, like upon the sanction of issue of bonus shares, what entry will you pass? First of all the free reserves can be used for the issue of bonus shares. सारे free reserves को हम bonus shares issue करने के लिए use कर सकते हैं. All free reserves can be used for the purpose of issue of bonus shares. Free reserves के अलावा capital redemption reserve and securities premium account can also be used for the purpose of issue of bonus shares. अब capital redemption reserve is a restricted reserve. So, because of these restrictions attached to capital redemption reserve, if we are getting a balance of capital redemption reserve in the question pertaining to bonus issue, first of all, we are required to utilize that. कैपिटल रिडम्पशन रिजर्व जो है वो रिस्ट्रिक्टेड यूज के लिए होता है, हर पर्पस के लिए हम उसे यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं, इसलिए जब क्वेश्चन के अंदर हमें उसका बैलेंस दिया हो तो सबसे पहले उसका बैलेंस यूज करना चाहिए. फ्री रिजर्व्स तो हम बहुत पर्पसेस के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं. So when information about any restricted balance is given to us, any restricted reserve balance is given to us, we should use that particular account. Suppose in the question it is given that the company issues bonus shares for 2 lakh. CRR given in the balance sheet of the company is 1,50,000. Securities premium is 50,000. And general reserve is suppose 2 lakh. Then what entry should I pass for bonus issue? You can understand this that first of all we have to utilize this capital redemption reserve because it is a restricted reserve. अगर हमने ये एंट्री बनाया कि हमने जनरल रिजर्व टू बोनस टू शेयर होल्डर्स बनाया, अकॉर्डिंग टू अस तो हम सही एंट्री बना के आए हैं क्योंकि हमने फ्री रिजर्व को यूज किया. फ्री रिजर्व्स कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर द इशू ऑफ बोनस शेयर्स. बट इज इट करेक्ट? वी विल नॉट बी गेटिंग एनी मार्क्स ऑफ इट बिकॉज हमारे को सीक्वेंस देखना होगा. हमें ये भी जानना है कि सबसे पहले कौन सा अकाउंट हमें यूज करना है. जो अकाउंट किसी और पर्पस के लिए यूज नहीं हो सकता उस और बोनस के लिए यूज हो सकता है, तो कंपनी को सबसे पहले उन्हीं दोनों अकाउंट्स को यूज करना चाहिए. ठीक है. सो दिस इज रिगार्डिंग द इशू ऑफ फुल्ली पेड बोनस शेयर्स टू द शेयर होल्डर्स. Some student is asking the query on manager remuneration. Manager remuneration calculation is very, we had taken the illustration on this. This is also given in the study material. If you have not understood, then you can mail me your mail ID. We will be separately discussing your query and we will be explaining it to you. Our mail ID is accounting/inter@icea.in. आप उस पे अपनी सारी क्वेरीज भेज सकते हैं. सुटेबल आपको रिप्लाई मिलेगा. इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनी क्यों डिडक्ट, व्हाई इन्वेस्टमेंट इज नॉट डिडक्टेड इन इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनी? इन्वेस्टमेंट इज नॉट डिडक्टेड इन इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनी बिकॉज फॉर कैलकुलेशन ऑफ इफेक्टिव कैपिटल, Krishna Sharma, you are asking that why investment is not being deducted while calculating effective capital in the case of investment company? Because it's an investment company only and all the investments are in the nature of trading for that particular company. They are part of the operations of the company. Investment are being in the nature of trading and they are held in normal course of business operation for the company. That is the reason investments are not being deducted for the investment company. So bonus shares, for bonus shares we can either use capital redemption reserve, securities premium or general reserve and profit and loss account. After utilizing the first two accounts, that means CRR and securities premium, profit and loss and account and general reserve में से according to the information given in the question हम कोई सा भी account use कर सकते हैं. और इनफैक्ट हम अगर एक अकाउंट से हमारा पूरा होता है तो हम either we can use profit and loss account and general, or we can use general reserve by giving a suitable assumption in the question that we have used this particular account and accordingly we have given the journal entry for this. This was a case of fully paid issue of bonus shares, like if the bonus shares are being issued as fully paid up bonus shares. Now there may be a situation that the company is having partly paid up shares and by way of bonus the company is converting those partly paid up shares into fully paid up. Then in that situation what will happen? In that situation we cannot use securities premium and capital redemption reserve, we are only supposed to use free reserves. That means we are only supposed to use general reserve and profit and loss account. In bonus share question, in majority of the examination, past examination question papers, the question requires us to prepare the journal entries and the balance sheet of the question after making such a bonus issue as being given in the question, whatever for whatever amount, and it is given to us that all the conditions have been necessarily complied by the company for the issue of bonus shares. You can see this particular question. So the important thing here is for bonus issue, if we are issuing fully paid up bonus shares, then there is no issue. All four types of accounts can be used. But if we are converting partly paid up into fully paid up, then we cannot use CRR and securities premium, because listed companies are not supposed to use that, and we can use only general reserve and profit and loss account. That much we are supposed to remember. अब इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर हमें एक एक्सट्रैक्ट दिया है बैलेंस शीट का. We are not given the complete balance sheet, but we are given the relevant extract of the company, from where we can gather the information of subscribed capital. We are given the reserves and surplus heading, and we are giving the bifurcation of the accounts therein. General reserve we are giving capital redemption reserve, we are giving securities premium which has not been realized in cash. Moreover, securities premium realized in cash only we can use, but if the securities premium has been not realized in cash, that also we cannot issue for the purpose of issue of bonus shares. And profit and loss account 6 lakh. Now again, as I told you that the question may ask you to prepare journal entries and to prepare the extract of the balance sheet immediately after bonus issue. So again, this type of the situation is being asked in the question. First of all, the company has made a final call for rupees 2 each on 2 lakh equity shares. So the company is converting its partly paid up into fully paid up, not by way of bonus, but the company is asking the shareholders to pay the money, and the company is converting these shares, 2 lakh shares of rupees 10 each, rupees 10 paid up. So now earlier they were of having 16 lakh paid up capital, but now they will be having 20 lakh paid up capital. So 4 lakh will be asked from the shareholder. It's a simple journal entry that equity share final call account debited to equity share capital and bank account debited to equity share final call account. 4 lakh will be taken from the shareholders. Now the question is not on this. The question is on bonus. So the company has decided to capitalize its reserves by way of bonus at the rate of 1 share for every 4 shares. So it means the company was having 2 lakh shares, and for every 4 shares, the company wants to issue 1 bonus shares. It means 50,000 bonus shares will be issued at rupees 10. So the bonus will be for 5 lakh. The bonus will be for 5 lakh. And how will you use the accounts? How will you utilize the profits amount? First of all, you will use the capital redemption reserve, which is 1,20,000. First of all, 1,20,000. Then we will use securities premium, but securities premium has not been realized in cash. So can we use it? No, we cannot use. If the securities premium has not been realized in cash, then we cannot use it. Suppose in the question it is not mentioned that this particular amount of securities premium, whether we have realized in cash or not, then we can make a note and we can solve the question accordingly. We can say that we have assumed that this amount of securities premium is not realized in cash, and that is why we are not considering this amount for the purpose of issue of bonus shares. Bonus to equity shareholders to equity share capital account. The entries are very simple. Now, after the issue of bonus shares, we have to frame the balance sheet of the company. We are just supposed to give the extract of the balance sheet. So we can simply write that securities premium untouched because we have not used. CRR is nil because entire amount of CRR is being used. And from general reserve, from profit and loss account and general reserve, we have used profit and loss account 6 lakh was earlier. General reserve we have used in entirety, and profit and loss account 20,000 is still remaining. So out of profit and loss account and general reserve, both stand at the same parity. Both stand at the same level. We can use either of the two accounts, and the other one we can, if it is fully available, then we can use it. Otherwise, we can leave it and we can retain it for the, we can retain the balance of it. Suppose like in this particular question, we have used general reserve by rupees 3,60,000. It means we have exhausted general reserve, but P&L we have taken only for rupees 20,000 for the issue of bonus shares. We can use vice versa also. There will be no deduction of marks due to this. The concept of bonus is very simple. Around 5 marks question, maybe sometimes 8 marks question may be asked on this particular chapter. The chapter is very simple. We can just understand the provisions of the Companies Act for the issue of bonus shares. We are just to have the knowledge of how to pass the entries, and then how to use the accounts, how to use the various accounts, and then we can proceed for the entries and the balance sheet if it is required in the question. First of all, we have to see that in what type of chapters, what type of questions can be asked. Like in redemption of preference shares, again, we can be asked to prepare the journal entries, we can be asked to prepare the ledger accounts, we can be asked to prepare the balance sheet of the company after the redemption process has taken place. The company might give us some information, and where the company may ask us to prepare the journal entries and the balance sheet after that. In the chapter of redemption of preference shares, first of all, we must understand that no shares can be redeemed except out of the profits of the company, which otherwise will be available for dividend or out of the proceeds of fresh issue. Suppose the company wants to redeem any of the preference shares amounting maybe suppose 1 lakh at par or at premium, whatsoever, but the company either has to issue the fresh equity shares for that particular purpose, or the same amount has to be transferred to capital redemption reserve account from our free reserves. It means the capital structure of the company, the basic intention or the basic logic behind this creation of CRR is that the capital structure of the company should not get disturbed. We should maintain the same capital structure as it was before the redemption of preference shares. No such shares can be redeemed unless they are fully paid up. For bonus also, we cannot issue the bonus shares until the existing equity shares are being made fully paid up. For redemption of preference shares, we will see only the entries related to redemption of preference shares. When the preference shares are redeemed at par, then redeemable preference share capital account will be debited to preference share holders account. And when preference shares are redeemed at premium, then premium or redemption of preference shares will also come into picture, and that will the amount will be added to the amount to be paid to the preference shareholders account, and then gross amount will be credited to preference shareholders account. And when payment is made to shareholders, the entire amount is being paid, and the entry is made accordingly by debiting the preference shareholders account and crediting the bank account. Now, what will happen to adjustment of premium on redemption? Where will you charge it? Premium on redemption can be charged to securities premium or profit and loss account. Securities premium only in case of the companies where the company is not abided by section 133 and it is not following accounting standards. But in our study material, in all the chapters, we are presuming that the company is complying with accounting standards, and we are not utilizing the securities premium for the purpose of redemption of preference shares. However, if you for charging the premium on preference shares, if you are utilizing the same, then you have to give a note for this in your answer, and then only you can do the same. Otherwise, you safely charge profit and loss account for the premium on redemption of preference shares. Now we can take one simple question for the calculation of shares, which we have, as we know that for redemption of preference shares, either we have to issue fresh equity or we have to transfer the amount of the same from general reserve to capital redemption reserve. But for this particular purpose, for fresh equity, the par value of equity shares will be considered. Now, in this particular question, it is given to us that the company had 5,008% redeemable preference shares of ₹100 each. So it means we had to redeem 5 lakh. The company decided to redeem these preference shares at par by the issue of sufficient number of equity shares of ₹10 each. So there is no problem. We can say that the company needs to issue 5 lakh divided by 10, that is 50,000 shares have to be issued. But now, if the company issues the shares at premium, it means if the company issues the shares at ₹11, then what will happen? Then in that case, the par value will only be considered for the purpose of issue of shares, and the other amount will be gone to securities premium account. So this type of question we have already done. The same type of question is this. You can do this. Khushi Maheshwari is asking, from among journalism and profit and loss account, we can use profit and loss account first for bonus issue. There is no hard and fast rule. Both the accounts stand at the same level. Either we can use profit and loss account or general reserve, but we can give a note. If suppose a balance in profit and loss account is not sufficient for the issue of bonus shares, and we are supposed to use general reserve, then you can use general reserve itself, or otherwise any of the sequence you can maintain for utilization of the reserves for the purpose of bonus issue. There is no as such rule prescribed where we have to use first profit and loss account and then only general reserve. Both are free reserves, both can be used simultaneously. Archie is asking, in the notes of balance sheet, is it necessary to make the balance sheet according to the relevant schedule? Whenever you will be preparing the balance sheet of the company, how will you prepare it? Suppose you are preparing the balance sheet of the company and simultaneously you are writing notes to accounts. Suppose in the balance sheet of the company, you are showing an item of PPE, property, plant, and equipment, and for this you are mentioning schedule number 1. So here in notes to accounts under 1, you will be disclosing all the which are there in the property, plant, and equipment, along with the depreciation, carrying value, any acquisition during the year if it is there, that has to be considered here. Then depreciation to be shown here separately for each item of property, plant, and equipment. Then net carrying value, and only this net carrying value of all the items combined together, for all the items of property, plant, and equipment combined together will be shown on the face of the balance sheet here. And this is not only for this particular item, but you have to maintain the numbering accordingly. Like what you are giving in notes to accounts number 1, that number only should be referred here, because this is exactly the reference of the details which we are not disclosing on the face of the balance sheet, but for which we are preparing the notes to accounts. So this is the main requirement of the question. Now, the last chapter in the company accounts portion is redemption of debentures. All the significant aspects for these chapters we are trying to cover, and mostly the question on these particular chapters 5, 6, and 7, and 8 will be 10 marks question, not beyond that. And for chapter 4, as I have told you, the full-fledged question of 20 marks will be asked. So now we have understood the type of questions which can be asked from a particular chapter. In redemption of debentures, again, we can be asked to show various accounts which are involved in the question, like debenture redemption reserve account, debenture redemption reserve investment account, bank account, debenture holders account. And in redemption of preference shares, again, we can be asked to prepare the entries, or we may be asked to prepare the accounts. What type of accounts? Like we may be asked to prepare the preference shareholders account, bank account, and redemption. Accordingly, you may be asked to incorporate the entries relating to redemption in the by posting those transaction in the relevant ledger accounts which are being given to you in the question, which have been asked to prepare in the question. In debenture redemption reserve, in questions based on redemption of debentures, now the concept of debenture redemption reserve is very much minimum. It is required in very few questions. It is required to maintain for a company which is not an AFI or a banking company. It is not listed. If it's an unlisted company, then only 10% of the value of debentures. Then only 10% of the value of debentures has to be created at the time of issue of debentures. Only the amount of debenture redemption reserve may be created. And for all the other companies, except unlisted companies which are not AFI, not a banking company, for all the other companies, the requirement of maintaining debenture redemption reserve is not there now. It has been removed. The requirement has been removed, so it is not there now. So for these companies only, the amount of 10% has to be kept as a debenture redemption reserve, and it has to be transferred from profits. You can transfer from profits in the beginning of the year itself when you are issuing the debentures. So you can see these journal entries we will be making for creation of debenture redemption reserve, that means profit and loss account or journal reserve, credit to debenture redemption reserve, and for investing the amount set for redemption, we can create debenture redemption reserve investment account. For receipt of interest, again, bank account debited to interest on debenture redemption reserve investment account. In the question, if no information is being provided to us about receipt of interest, then we will have to see it, and we have to consider the interest account either by debiting our bank account. That means we can assume that this amount of interest is being received by the company on yearly basis, or we can further invest upon, like by debiting the DRRI. Interest amount of debenture redemption reserve investment may again be reinvested accordingly, but for that we have to provide the suitable note in our answer, that on what basis, on what presumption we are doing the question. And interest on debenture redemption reserve account, interest on debenture redemption reserve investment account is to be credited to profit and loss account. That is a income for us. At the time of redemption, again, the entry will be reversed. What entry do we pass at the time of issue of debentures? We pass the entry bank account debited to debentures, but at the time of redemption of debentures, we have to pass the entry. First of all, we will make the amount due to debenture holders. Debenture holders will be debited, and the amount of debentures which are being due to the debenture holders will be credited. For payment, again, the entry will be debenture holders to bank. And after redemption of debentures, DRR should again be transferred to journal reserve. Whatever amount of DRR you are maintaining, that amount has to be charged to journal reserve. So again, we will be putting the amount to journal reserve. We will be crediting the amount to journal reserve by debiting the debenture redemption reserve account. And whatever investments we had made from that debenture redemption reserve fund, those investments will now be realized and the cash will be acquired. It will be suitably debited into bank account of the company. So this is all about module 2, where we were covering chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7 and chapter 8. What type of questions can be expected from this particular section we have discussed. What is the weightage of this particular section we have discussed. Around 2 questions may be asked on this particular section. One question may be full-fledged, other question may be for 10 marks, and then 2 short questions, 5 marks may be asked under question number 6. Those questions may be based on the small concept, maybe on redemption of debentures, maybe on redemption of preference shares, maybe on issue of bonus shares, maybe on issue of right shares also, and small concepts may be asked to be elaborated upon. Generally, from this particular section, no theory question may be asked, only a practical question will be asked. No question on comprehension knowledge will be asked, but you will be required to answer the practical question based on the application of the concept which are to be studied in these chapters. So now we are coming to another important chapter, that is of investment accounts. The principles of AS 13 is applicable to this particular chapter. AS 13. AS 13 क्या है, क्या बताता है? AS 13 हमें अकाउंटिंग फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के बारे में पूरा ओवरव्यू देता है, हमें कैसे करना चाहिए. हालांकि accounting standard 13 is relevant for the investors, not for the brokers, but with suitable modifications, the accounting standard can be adopted by the persons who are dealing in shares and debentures. Here we are focused on only the investors, the persons who are retaining the investment for their investment purpose and not for the purpose of trading. So this chapter is specifically relevant for those persons who are retaining the investments for their investment purpose and not for the purpose of trade. This chapter is in line with Accounting Standard 13, where investments are being classified into current investments and long-term investments. So initial recognition is at cost for both the investments, whether it's current investments or whether it's long-term investment. However, for current investments, at each reporting date, whenever we are preparing the financial statements of the company, we have to assess the fair value of the investment. Current investments are those investments which are intended to be carried for not more than one accounting year. Basically, not more than 1 year, as we discussed yesterday also. They have to be kept in the books at lower of cost or fair value. And what about long-term investments? Long-term investments are to be carried at cost, less provision for other than temporary diminution. It means if the value of this particular investment is being reduced, and the reduction in value is not in the nature of temporary reduction, it is in the nature of permanent reduction, then we have to recognize the decline in value by charging the same to profit and loss account. Whenever we are reducing the value of the investment, suppose we are having the carrying value of investments 100, and now we decide it to retain at rupees 80. That means 20 rupees is the reduction in value. This 20 rupees is to be charged to profit and loss account. This has to be charged to debit to profit and loss statement. And the carrying value of the investment will be reduced to rupees 80. So this is a very simple chapter. In this, we will be having the question of investment in shares as well as investment in debentures, investment in some government loan. These type of questions are generally covered in this particular question, in this particular chapter. जो मेन क्रक्स है इसका चैप्टर का, उसमें रिक्लासिफिकेशन के भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं जो कि AS 13 में भी आते हैं. तो बेसिकली व्हेन यू रीड AS 13, जब आप चैप्टर 3 के अंदर AS13 को उठाएंगे तभी आप चैप्टर 9 को भी कवर कर लीजिएगा, क्योंकि मोर और लेस आपके जो प्रोविजंस AS13 के हैं वो सेम है जो दोनों जगह लगेंगे। आपकी मेहनत डबल नहीं होगी आपको, वरना जब आप इन्वेस्टमेंट अकाउंट का चैप्टर करेंगे तो वही चीज जो आपने चैप्टर 1 में पढ़ी है AS13 के कंटेक्स्ट में, जो AS13 के प्रोविजंस हमने पढ़े हैं वही हमें यहाँ पे अप्लाई करने हैं। चैप्टर 3 वाले ही सारे कंसेप्ट हमें चैप्टर 9 में अप्लाई करने हैं। सो वी हैव टू रीड द चैप्टर अलोंग विद AS13. This we had already discussed yesterday, that when we were supposed to reclassify the investment from current to lower, from current to long-term investment category, then at what value we are supposed to transfer. Transfers have to be made at lower of cost and fair value on the date of transfer. And when we are supposed to reclassify my long-term investment to current investment, then at what value we are supposed to transfer. We are supposed to transfer at lower of cost and carrying amount. This we have already discussed yesterday. Now, coming back to a question on this particular investment accounting concept, we are taking a simple question on where the investor has taken the equity shares. All the cost associated with the purchase has to be added in the investment account only, because it is the cost of my investment. All the costs which have been incurred by the investor for brokering the investments, for brokering the shares or brokering the debentures, it may be including any brokerage, whatever charges have to be borne by the investor to acquire those investments have to be added to the value of investment at the very beginning itself. And whatever the charges are being incurred for selling that particular investment, that has to be reduced from the sale proceeds for disposal of investments. Whenever we are disposing certain investment, for calculation of profit or loss on sale of investment, all the charges which we are supposed to pay for the sale of investment, that has to be reduced accordingly. In this particular question, we can see at the beginning date of the year, the person, Mr. T. Shekharan, has purchased 5,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each at rupees 120, who charge 2% brokerage. So what should be the cost here? The cost should be 100 into 120 plus 2%. So you can see the calculation, 5,000 into 120 plus 2%. 5,000 into 120 comes out to 6 lakh, and 2% of that 6 lakh will be added here as brokerage. And again, 0.5% will be added as cost of transfer stamps, which has been given to us that he incurred 50 paisa per rupees 100 as cost of share transfer stamps. All these costs will be added here, and the cost of acquisition of investment will be determined. Let me take one. While passing journal entries in questions, Shipra is asking that while passing journal entries in question, is sequence important as per question requirement, or we can pass entries as per flow of entries? If the question specifically gives certain transaction to us, that this is number 1, this is number 2, then we have to give the entries accordingly. If the question does not give any such specific requirement, and the question simply says that these are the transactions which were being carried out by the company, then we have to give the entries accordingly. However, the sequence matters sometimes. The sequence matters sometimes. It means that if the question states the dates to us and say that the bonus is before this date, then we are saying that the redemption of preference shares is being taken place and fresh equity is being issued, then accordingly only we are supposed to give the journal entries. क्वेश्चन के अंदर जो रिक्वायरमेंट हमें दिया है उसके हिसाब से ही हमें जर्नल एंट्रीज को बनाना है। और अगर सीक्वेंस दिया हुआ है क्वेश्चन के अंदर, इफ यू आर गिविंग द सीक्वेंस of the information, then we have to proceed that sequence only while passing the journal entry, because the dates may be mentioned to you in the question, and accordingly as per those dates only we have to give the journal entries. So now we have understood that all the cost of investment will be coming under the investment account head, and we will be adding all such costs which will form part of the cost of acquisition. Now, in this particular question also, bonus was declared in the ratio of 1:2. How will you consider this bonus? For bonus shares, you are not supposed to pay anything. You are just getting these shares free of cost. So, they will be added to my nominal value. Half of the shares, 5 lakh. Earlier, I was having 5 lakh rupees nominal value shares. Now I am getting half of the shares again as a bonus, because 2:1 का ratio है. 2:1 का ratio means if I was having 50,000 shares of rupees 10 or 5,000 shares of rupees 100, then I will be getting 2,500 shares of rupees 100 in lieu of bonus. That will be coming here without any cost. No cost will be coming here because I am not supposed to pay anything. Now, the shares were sold. The question says us that the shares bonus was declared in the ratio of 1:2. Before and after the record date of bonus shares, the shares were quoted at rupees 175 and 90 rupees per share. And on 31st March itself, the investors sold bonus shares to a broker who charged 2% brokerage. Now, for bonus shares, the rate was 90 rupees per share, and we sold all those bonus shares. So now you can see how will you calculate the cost of bonus shares. Sale proceeds of equity shares, we could have easily understood the sale prices 2,500 into 90, because it is given to us that the shares were, after issue of bonus shares, the shares were quoted at rupees 90 per share. So it means we had to sell these shares. We had to sell these shares at rupees 90 per share only. 2,500 shares at rupees 90 per share, into 98% you can say, because 2% was a brokerage charge. How to calculate profit or loss on these shares? Because we did not pay anything, any cost for this. Now, it comes to mind that we can say that our cost was nil. So the entire amount of the sale proceeds may be taken to profit and loss account. The entire amount of sale proceeds is our profit. पर ये गलत होगा, ये सही नहीं है, क्योंकि हमने टोटल कॉस्ट, whatever cost we have incurred till date, उसको हमें डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा 7,50,000 शेयर्स से, to calculate the average cost of shares. Average cost of shares determine करने के बाद, average cost निकालने के बाद हमें उन 2,500 shares का cost मिल जाएगा, and from that we can find out the profit or loss. Definitely there will be profit on sale of equity shares. So here, what is the average cost? Average cost is, you can see we had spent rupees 6,15,000, and 6,15,000 is a cost of 7,50,000 shares, and now we are selling 2,50,000 shares. So the amount is coming out to be 2,05,000. So 2,05,000 is the amount of cost of these shares which we got as bonus, and the sale proceeds of this share is 2,20,500. So now the profit amount is simple, 2,20,500 less 2,05,000. It means 15,500 is a profit. Now, can we leave the question like this? No, we have to calculate the closing value of investment also. On average cost basis only, we will determine the value of the investments, value of the shares at the end of the year. Now, I am having 5 lakh shares at the end of the year. So, it means this 2,50,000 will be replaced by 5 lakh and the formula will remain same. It means we have to determine the cost on the same basis for 5 lakh shares. The cost will be determined as 6,15,000 into 5 lakh divided by 7,50,000. That means 4,10,000. Now the market value is 4,50,000 and the cost is 4,10,000. So nothing is to be done because the market value of the shares is more than cost price. We were treating it as current investment. It is not mentioned in the question, but if nothing is mentioned in the question, we can simply say that we are treating it as current investment and the investments have to be carried at cost or market value, whichever is less. So in this present question, the investments will be retained at 4,10,000 only. So this question is clear. Now we are coming to chapter 10, insurance claim. In insurance claim, we are having two types of questions. What are those types of questions? DRR percentage. Harish Narayan is asking about DRR percentage. In majority of the questions, we are not supposed to give any DRR percentage if it is not specifically mentioned in the question. However, DRR percent is 10% for all the unlisted companies other than AFIs and banking companies. It is being specified in the chapter itself, and the complete table is given in the chapter where all categories of companies are being specified. And for those companies, it is being mentioned that only the last category given in the table requires 10% of DRR to be maintained. You can see the table given in chapter 8 for the adequacy of debenture redemption reserve account. Same thing is being asked by other student also. You can refer the table given in the study material only for one category of company, which is given in the last of the table, which is given in the chapter. For that classification of company, the percentage is 10%. But however, if the question does not specify, if the question given in the question paper does not specify what category to which the company belongs, then we have to write that it is unlisted company, and then we can provide 10% by giving a suitable note in our answer. In insurance claim question, we are having two types of questions. One is insurance claim for loss of stock, and the other type of problem is for loss of profits. As you know, whenever there is any mishappening, the business suffers a lot. There may be immediate loss of stock, some building, some furniture. There may be certain other aspects which the business has to suffer for. The business has to be dislocated for a certain period of time. It has to be relocated to some other place of business where the business can be carried upon, due to which there may be certain additional expenses also to be incurred by the company. Some expenses may be in the nature of standing charges and some may be variable. For variable charges, there is no issue. We know that this much amount of the expenses we are going to suffer because of this mishappening. But for the standing charges, which we already are aware of, that this much amount of expenses, suppose a business is being disrupted for some period, we have to pay the salaries to the workers, we have to carry out certain other administrative expenses which were part and parcel of the business entity earlier. So those expenses which are still to be paid without having the business run, without having any business operations active, those are the standing charges. And for those standing charges, we can also get an insurance cover. So in loss of profit policy, we have to find out two things. For loss of profit policy, we have to find out two things. What are those things? First of all, loss of profit for the period during which the business is being interrupted. And the other aspect is additional charges. Additional charges which the business has to incur. It means अगर कोई मिस हैपनिंग होती है तो बिजनेस दो तरीके से सफर करता है. एक तो बिजनेस रन नहीं कर पा रहा, तो जो भी हमारे प्रॉफिट हैं जो हमें आने चाहिए थे, अगर हम कैरी ऑन करते, अगर हम लास्ट ईयर से अपने को कंपेयर करते, तो मे बी हमारा जो भी लास्ट ईयर प्रॉफिट था हमने एंटिसिपेट किया था उससे हमें 10% ज्यादा मिलता, वो हमारा प्रॉफिट हमें नहीं मिला. दूसरा, कुछ खर्चे और बढ़ गए, जैसे हमें बिजनेस को तुरंत कहीं पे शिफ्ट करना पड़ता है, या फिर हमें कुछ एक्सपेंसेस हैं जो अचानक से बियर करने पड़ते हैं, जिसके कारण, क्योंकि उस मिस हैपनिंग के कारण हमारे खर्चे बढ़ गए. One thing is that we have not earned the profits. Other thing is that we are supposed to carry out certain additional expenses due to that mishappening. For both these aspects, insurance policy can be taken, and the loss of a consequential loss policy covers both these aspects, where we can get ourselves insured for loss of profit as well as for increase in charges because of the mishappening. This is a type of policy for loss of profit. Then again, we are having a policy for loss of stock, where the entire stock is lost, the entire stock is destroyed by fire. We can get the stock insured, and whenever such type of fire, such type of mishappening occurs, then we can get the insurance claim accordingly. However, average clause is being applicable for all such types of insurance claims. Suppose the stock was for rupees 1 lakh and we had taken the policy for rupees 80,000, then the average clause will be applicable. We will see in this particular question how, if the stock is not fully insured, then how we have to utilize the concept of average clause for the purpose of insurance claim for loss of stock. So now, in this particular question, it is given to us that on 20th October, the godown and the business premises of the company was affected by fire. From the salvaged accounting records, the following information is available. Sale of goods at 10% lower than cost as on 31st March 2021. You can take X1 or 21. It is 2,16,000. Purchases less returns given to us for the period. This is for the period of from the date of beginning of accounting year to the date of fire. This is to the date of fire. So we are preparing trading account here in this particular question from the opening date of the accounting year to the date of fire. Sales less returns also being given to us. But now the question gives us certain additional information which we have to utilize for the purpose of calculating what exactly we have to calculate in this question. We have to calculate the amount of claim to be lost to the insurance company. And it is given that the company has insured their stock for rupees 1 lakh. What we are not given? We are not given the stock on the date of fire. We are not given the value of stock on the date of fire. So we will have to calculate the value of stock on the date of fire. Opening stock now as on 1st April we are giving, so we will consider this, but in the question it is given that this stock has been reduced 10% lower than the cost. So basically it is 90%. We have to carry it, we have to book it at cost. 2,16,000 divided by 90%, it will be 2,40,000. So this amount will be coming in the opening stock. Purchases less returns, we are given this, we can take it as it is, and this we can take as it is, but with adjustment, certain adjustment has to be done. It is given in purchases up to the date of fire did not include rupees 40,000 for which purchase invoice had not been received from supplier, though goods have been received in advance. Though goods have been received in our stock. So it means we have to add this 40,000 to this particular value while making the adjustment. You add this 40,000, 2,80,000 plus 40,000, it becomes 3,20,000. Under sales, we are giving 6,20,000. It's the beginning, from beginning date to the date of fire. Now in sales, we are what information we are being provided, that sales up to the date of fire include rupees 80,000 for which goods had not been dispatched. It means इसके अंदर से हमको इसको हटाना होगा. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि 6,20,000 जो हमारा सेल्स का फिगर है उसके अंदर हमें 80,000 का एडजस्टमेंट और करना होगा, रिड्यूस करना होगा, ऐड नहीं करना, रिड्यूस करना होगा. So come back to this 6,20,000 minus 80,000 sales आ गया. This is a very simple trading account where we are using the information of opening date, closing stock, all the adjustments. Maybe other figures may also, all other adjustment may also be given in the question, from the opening date to the date of fire. All the adjustment from the opening date to the date of fire we will have to consider, and then we can calculate closing stock. Now the gross profit will have to be computed. Gross profit will have to be computed. It is given to us in the question that it is 25%. Nothing is provided on what 25% it is on sales or it is on cost of goods sold. Then we will consider it on sales. So it is 25% of rupees 5,40,000. It will be coming out to 1,35,000. So this is the stock value. इसको बनाया क्यों ट्रेडिंग अकाउंट को? ट्रेडिंग अकाउंट को बनाने का पर्पस क्या था? इवन इफ द क्वेश्चन इज नॉट आस्किंग मी टू प्रिपेयर ट्रेडिंग अकाउंट, क्वेश्चन आस्क मी जस्ट टू कंप्यूट द अमाउंट ऑफ क्लेम टू बी लॉस्ट टू द इंश्योरेंस कंपनी. But I had prepared trading account because I wanted the stock on the date of fire. The value of stock on the date of fire can be determined on the basis of the information given to you from the opening date till the date of fire. All the transactions, purchases, sales from the opening date to the date of fire, and then you can calculate the figure of closing stock. Now the closing stock is 1,55,000, but you had insured your stock only for 1 lakh. Now you see the application of average clause here. Stock on the date of fire is 1,55,000. 31,000 का स्टॉक सैल्वेज है, मतलब 31,000 का स्टॉक हम बचा पाए, 31,000 का स्टॉक हम सेव कर पाए. इसका मतलब जो हमारा टोटल लॉस हुआ वो 1,24,000 का था. इंश्योरेंस क्लेम कैसे निकलेगा? इंश्योरेंस क्लेम निकलेगा लॉस ऑफ स्टॉक divided by total cost of stock into insured value. So here the average clause will be applicable and the total value of stock will be considered on the basis of which the average clause will be applicable. आपका जो लॉस हुआ वो 1,24,000 का हुआ, लेकिन जो मेरा टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ स्टॉक था वो 1,55,000 था. लेकिन पॉलिसी मैंने कितने का लिया? पॉलिसी मैंने 1 लाख का लिया. तो इट मीन्स मुझे पूरा 1,24,000 का क्लेम नहीं मिलेगा. मुझे 1,24,000 का क्लेम ना मिलके मुझे 80,000 का क्लेम मिलेगा अगर मैंने अगर मैंने जो इंश्योरेंस कराया था वो मैंने 1 लाख का नहीं कराया होता और मैंने 2 लाख का कराया होता, मतलब मोर देन द वैल्यू ऑफ स्टॉक कराया होता, या फिर मैंने 1,55,000 का पूरा कराया होता, तो मुझे पूरा का पूरा स्टॉक का वैल्यू मिलता। इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि एवरेज क्लॉज जो होता है वो प्रोपोर्शनेट करता है आपके लॉस को आपकी वैल्यू ऑफ स्टॉक से। अगर वैल्यू ऑफ स्टॉक मेरी ज्यादा थी और मैंने उतने का इंश्योरेंस नहीं लिया था तो मुझे मेरा पूरा लॉस ऑफ स्टॉक नहीं मिलेगा। अगर मुझे पूरा लॉस ऑफ स्टॉक चाहिए था तो मुझे एटलीस्ट उतनी वैल्यू का इंश्योरेंस क्लेम कराना चाहिए था। So this is basically these type of questions will be asked on this particular topic. This is question on insurance claim for loss of stock. Another aspect of the questions which may be asked from this particular topic is insurance claim for loss of profit. That aspect we are not covering here because generally that type of question is a very lengthy question. It generally carries 15 marks or sometimes maybe more than that. 15 marks minimum है insurance claim for loss of profit के question के लिए। तो क्वेश्चन वो बहुत बड़ा हो जाता है, लेकिन उसके अंदर जो मेजर एडजस्टमेंट्स हैं वो यही है कि हमें कॉन्सिक्वेंशियल लॉस पॉलिसी के अंदर इंश्योर्ड स्टैंडिंग चार्जेस का अमाउंट डिटरमाइन करना है, हमें लॉस ऑफ प्रॉफिट का अमाउंट डिटरमाइन करना है, and accordingly we have to see that what amount of claim we can go for. Now we have one important chapter of accounting for branches. Chapter 11, chapter 10 is on insurance claim. Chapter 11 is on hire purchase. Hire purchase accounting के अंदर जो questions आते हैं generally, या तो आपको account बनाने को आएगा, hire purchaser account, asset account, hire vendor account may be asked in the book of hire purchaser, and sometimes 5 marks question may be asked for installment. What is the interest component which is being included in the installments each year as per the information given in the question. Then you have to derive the amount of interest for each year which have been included in the installments. If the interest rate is not being provided to you, then what will be happening? Then the other information might be given to you from which you can derive the same. In chapter 12, departmental accounts, also we can see one question on departmental accounts also. In departmental accounts also, the basis of apportionment of various items of expenses and revenue is important. You can see allocation of expenses among various departments. Chapter 11 in hire purchase accounting, you will get only 5 marks or 8 marks question, not beyond that. And chapter 10, I have told you that for insurance, there are 2 types of questions which may be asked from that particular chapter. If the question is based on insurance claim for loss of stock, then the question will be 6 or 8 marks question. But if the question is on insurance claim for loss of profit, then it may be a little bit lengthy and it may fetch more marks, maybe of 10 marks or 15 marks, because there may be so many calculations involved in the question that may require more time. So for that particular section, you have to practice more and more for those type of questions, because they sometimes take more time in calculations. Their calculations involved is more as compared to the conceptual understanding which is being required in those questions. For department accounting, we have these expenses and we have to decide on the basis of apportionment of these expenses to various departments. The purpose of departmental accounting is to exercise effective control on working of all the departments in my business entity. I want to know as a financial head of the company that which particular department is giving more benefit to me and which department I have to think of closing down because it's not giving me any profit. How can I manage it effectively, or how can I control it in such a manner that the profits of this particular department can be increased? So to provide efficiency and effective controlling of all the departments, the concept of departmental accounting was involved. Now for these expenses, you can see the bifurcation and you can see the basis of allocation of these expenses to different departments. Rent, rates and taxes, repairs, maintenance and insurance of building, they have to be divided on the basis of the floor area occupied by each department. For lighting and heating expenses, what is the consumption? What is the basis of consumption of energy by each department? What about the selling expenses? It means the sales of each department. So if we know the parameter, if we know the basis, then we can easily prepare the departmental accounts. The question on this particular topic may be asked from, generally it is of 8 to 10 marks, not beyond that. The weightage of the chapter is, the entire section carries a weightage of 20 to 25%, where we are having departmental account, branch account and accounts from incomplete records. So in this, we have selling expenses, we have to divide it on the base of sales, carriage inward, discount received on the basis of purchases of each department, wages and salaries on the basis of basically usage of employees by each department. What time of the employees you have taken by each department, on that basis you have to divide that expense. Depreciation, insurance, repairs and maintenance of capital assets, the utilization of capital assets, how you have utilized those capital assets. Administrative and other expenses on time basis or equally among all departments, depending upon the information which is being provided to you in the question. So this is a simple question which we can take on departmental accounting. There are two departments. We are giving the opening stock, we are giving the purchases, carriage inwards, outwards. Now we will just see the basis of allocation of our expenses to each department. We will put the heads, we will put the amounts in each department. Carriage inward for A department will go under A department category, and for the next department will go accordingly. Purchase goods transferred by department, second department to first department. Now these purchase goods have been transferred by department Y to department X. It will be shown on credit side of department Y and it will be shown as purchases under first department, yani department X, in the books of department X. In the same way, finished good transferred by department Y to department X will be shown under department X on debit side and under department Y on credit side. Closing stock of purchased goods and finished goods will both be shown under the head of both the departments. So this question can be referred. The main twist in this particular question is about stock reserve maintenance. The other things are quite simple. We can bifurcate the expenses and we can prepare the department account here for both the departments. In the end, we have to prepare combined trading account or consolidated trading account. How to maintain the stock reserve? Stock reserve is basically maintained for eliminating the unrealized profit of each department which is being included in the stock of another department. Suppose, let's take a simple example. Let's suppose department A has transferred certain goods of ₹100 to department B. In this, the cost of department A was only 80 rupees and 20 rupees it has added as profit margin while transferring it to department B. If these goods, if the entire goods have been sold by department B, then there is no problem. But on the closing date, if there has been certain stock lying with department B, which consists of this ₹100 stock, then we have to create stock reserve. It means if 50 rupees stock is still pending with department B, which was transferred by department A. So in this 50 rupees stock of department B, ₹100 out of rupees 100, rupees 50 stock is still pending. It means rupees 10, half of the unrealized, half of the profit which was on transfer of these goods from department A to department B, rupees 50 is still pending. It is not realized. This stock reserve has to be eliminated while preparing combined trading and P&L account. So this stock reserve has to be eliminated, because our main aim of preparing departmental account is not to account for interdepartmental profits, but our aim is only to account to see that how much each department is earning profit, and which department is not able to survive exactly, which department, working of which department is not efficient, and which department is not being able to perform satisfactorily. So this is about chapter 12, departmental accounts. Now the most important chapter, and which is generally being considered to be the difficult chapter, is branch accounting. In branch accounting, we are having foreign branch also. The principles of AS 11 we already discussed while doing the questions on AS 11 yesterday on effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. But for branch, if the branch is integral foreign operation, then how to account for it? If the branch is non-integral foreign operation, then how to account for it? That we will consider today. So for integral foreign operation, all the monetary items which are determinable in fixed amount of money, which are determinable in amounts of money, those monetary items for integral foreign operation as well as for non-integral foreign operation, we will consider the closing date. इंटीग्रल फॉरेन ऑपरेशन क्या है? जिसकी ऑपरेशंस हमारे से इंटीग्रल है, मतलब हमारे साथ चलता है, जो ऑपरेशन जो है वो पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग एंटिटी है. नॉन इंटीग्रल फॉरेन ऑपरेशन क्या है? जनरली नॉन इंटीग्रल फॉरेन ऑपरेशन के जो ऑपरेशंस होते हैं वो इंटीग्रल नहीं है. दे डू नॉट फॉल इन द कैटेगरी ऑफ इंटीग्रल ऑपरेशंस टू द रिपोर्टिंग बिजनेस एंटिटी. समवेयर उनकी फंक्शनिंग आर नॉट बीइंग कंट्रोल्ड डायरेक्टली, आर नॉट बीइंग कंट्रोल्ड properly by the reporting entity, but still it is my non-integral, it is my foreign operation. Non-monetary items are always converted at the rate of date on purchase if it is being maintained at historical cost for the integral foreign operation, and for non-integral foreign operation they are converted at closing date. For inventory, again, for integral foreign operation they are converted at closing date, and non-integral foreign operation also they are converted at closing date. For all the revenue items, for integral as well as for non-integral foreign operation, they are to be converted at average rate. And whatever the exchange difference is there, for integral foreign operation, I have to charge it to profit and loss account, and for non-integral foreign operation, it has to be accumulated in foreign currency translation reserve account. It has to be accumulated in foreign currency translation reserve account till the time it does not become integral operation for me. So we can take a very simple example for this, and with this then we will give you some more examination tips for attempting in the examination, because generally the students say that they are not able to complete the paper within the prescribed time period of 3 hours. These questions which we are discussing here, they are based on the previous examination question papers. We have taken the basis of 16 answers. If you want, we will share with you, but these questions you can refer from the BoS knowledge portal also. These questions are from 16 answers of the previous examination. 4-5 examination question papers, if you see, you will get the answers from the 16 answers. If even after studying these questions, you try to solve these questions on your own, if still certain issues are there, if still certain doubts are there, we will be there to resolve your doubts, and you can always mail us. We will be able to guide you. So in this particular question, in this particular question, it is not mentioned to us that whether the operation of the company is integral and non-integral. Both ways we will solve this question. If it's an integral found operation, then what will happen? If it's a non-integral found operation, then how will we account for? So for all the fixed assets, the historical cost is to be considered. It means the rate on the date of acquisition is to be considered for this particular item of machinery. The rate will be considered as the rate of 1420x1. Debtors will be converted at closing rate, closing date. Opening stock will be converted at opening rate. Goods received from head office. It's a revenue item. Should we convert it at average rate? No, because we are given the amount in rupees also here. So the actual amount will be considered here in place of the amount which is given to us in foreign currency. Sales, average rate will be applicable. Purchases, average rate will be applicable. Wages, salaries, average rate will be applicable. What about cash? Cash, closing. And remittances to head office, our head office account will be recorded at the actual. For creditors also, closing date will be applicable. So this is a question where we were required to convert the trial balance into Indian rupees. And how will we charge the depreciation? Depreciation is also to be charged on the basis, on the same rate on which we were providing the conversion for property, plant and equipment. So the same rate, the acquisition rate will be the rate applicable on the acquisition date will be applicable for this particular transaction. Now you can see the only difference here is for this particular item. So it means for other rates, we can go for the same even if it's a non-integral found operation. The only difference will come here, where we have to apply the closing rate. And what about this exchange difference? This exchange difference will be for integral found operation, it will go to P&L statement. And if it is non-integral found operation, then it will be accumulated in foreign currency translation reserve account. So this is the main crux of the question on conversion of trial balance of integral or non-integral foreign operation into Indian currency when it relates with some foreign operation. So this is all about the questions which we were discussing. In branch accounting normal question, we can have three methods: debtors method and stock and debtors method, in which we will be preparing the branch account on the basis that branch is a debtor for us. Branch is a debtor for us, and all the transactions relating to branch will be recorded accordingly. We have another method of branch trading and profit and loss account, in which we can prepare the trading and profit and loss account of branch. And the one elaborate method is also there, where we prepare branch stock account, branch debtors account, branch expenses account, and branch P&L account. But more or less, out of all these three methods, the answer should remain same. The principle is that the loading should not be involved in any question. Either we should reverse the loading or we should take the transactions at cost price. You can see what type of questions can be asked from this particular chapter of branch accounting. The question may be asked on independent branch, where we can be asked to prepare the accounts of independent branch. Also, we can be asked to show the reconciliation statement of the branch with our accounts. Like if the branch is maintaining accounts where our account is not matching with the branch accounts. So what kind of reconciliation, how can we tally that? The other question may be asked on debtors method or stock and debtors method. and trading in profit and loss account method, where we can be asked to show the necessary accounts. Sometimes in the question specifically asks that you have to prepare goods sent to branch account, branch P&L account, branch adjustment account, branch stock account, branch P&L adjustment account, branch debtors account. Then all these accounts will be required to be presented as part of the answer. Trading in profit and loss account method is, or the final account method is simple, where we can arrive directly to the amount of the profit. Under all the three methods, the profit amount is to be considered same. The profit amount is same for all the three methods. So this is exactly what type of the questions can be asked in the examination from this particular section. The entire study material of paper 1 accounting has been divided into 3 modules and 14 chapters in total, where each section, each module carries certain weightage from the examination perspective, as we discussed yesterday, where we also discussed about the structure of the question paper. Now, the main problem in the accounting paper is that when we start attempting the questions, we are not comfortable in completing the paper within the prescribed time. How should we go for it? When we start doing the question paper, first of all, we should decide the priority, as already been discussed earlier. We should decide about the priority, that which question we are supposed to attempt at first. अगर हमने सारे क्वेश्चन स्टडी मटेरियल के खुद से किए हैं, प्रैक्टिस खुद से किया है, तो हम इतने कॉन्फिडेंट होते हैं कि हमें सारी एडजस्टमेंट हमने एक जगह पे नोट बना के रखी होती है फॉर ब्रशिंग ऑल द एडजस्टमेंट एट द लेटर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. Because 1 day or 2 days prior to the examination, it's not possible for any student to revise all the concepts, to revise all the adjustments given in the study material for various type of questions. So what should we do in that case? We should prepare the notes for the tricky adjustments, all the provisions wherever required to memorize, those we should remember, like provision of the bonus, redemption of preference shares, when the company can do, what accounts company can use for the purpose of the same, when CRR is to be required, when CRR is to be reversed, for what purpose these accounts can be used, what are the provisions of accounting standards. AS 10 के हिसाब से अगर हमें प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट के कॉस्ट में क्या क्या इंक्लूड होना चाहिए, AS 11 में इंटीग्रल फॉरेन ऑपरेशन है तो हमें क्या करना चाहिए, नॉन इंटीग्रल फॉरेन ऑपरेशन है तो हमें कैसे ट्रांसलेशन करना चाहिए, AS 16 में बोरोइंग कॉस्ट क्वालिफाइंग एसेट के लिए कहाँ जाएगी, नॉन क्वालिफाइंग एसेट के लिए कहाँ जाएगी, क्वालिफाइंग एसेट क्या है. All these points should be gathered at one place and which we can use for the later part of revision. So at least 2 rounds of study should be there. In first place, we should assemble all the notes at one place. And the second place, we should brush up all our skills which we have already acquired, all the concepts which we have already learned. We can revise them through at the time of examination. More and more questions can be practiced so that we can gain more confidence. And if we have tried all types of questions, if we have solved all types of questions from our BoS knowledge inputs, from previous examination question papers, from our RTPs, from mock test papers, from study material, then at least that much confidence we will be having that we will, when we will be going in the examination hall and we see the question paper, we will first, all the questions will look familiar to me. They will not look uncomfortable, and I will, whenever I will start solving the questions, if at one point in some adjustment, if I get stuck, then I should proceed to the other question. I should not waste more and more time in solving that particular question. हम एक क्वेश्चन को शुरू करते हैं, हमें लगता है कि हम इसको कर पाएंगे, लेकिन हम करने लगते हैं तो हम किसी पॉइंट पे अटक जाते हैं. One more thing is that बैलेंस शीट का टैली होना कोई एक्यूरेसी नहीं है हमारे क्वेश्चन के सही होने की. हमने अगर अंदर के डेबिट्स और क्रेडिट्स ही गलत किए हैं, इफ वी हैव डन द रॉन्ग डेबिट्स एंड क्रेडिट्स, wrong entries have been passed by a student, then also the balance sheet will tally. So we have to remember that even if the balance sheet is tallied, it is no guarantee that the question solved is correct, the answer is correct. So we have to see that all the adjustments involved in the question, all the adjustments while solving the question have been taken care of, they have been correctly treated, they have been correctly accounted for in the answers. Even if the balance sheet does not tally, we should not waste time on telling it more and more, and we can stick to that particular answer and we can move to other questions. So now this we have discussed yesterday about the pattern of the question paper. We have also informed you about the weightage of various sections of the syllabus. Now, the only thing is that how to improve marks in the examination. You have to make optimum use of 15 minutes given for reading. Go through all the questions quickly and select the question that you would be attempting from all the questions at first. You have to allocate sufficient time, that you are having 3 hours time and you have to attempt 5 questions. So it means you can give half an hour to each question. Without wasting much time, if you are stuck up in some question, then you do not waste time in that particular question and you proceed further. अगर आपको समझ शुरू से क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहा है तो उसके अंदर ज्यादा टाइम वेस्ट करने का जरूरत नहीं है. We can move to another question. And do not try to avoid any of the topics while preparing for the topics, because sometimes we have prepared for one particular topic thoroughly, but when we see the question of that particular topic, we are not able to attempt. So it means we cannot skip any of the topics. All the chapters are important from examination point of view, and we have to gain confidence in all the chapters. In case of accounting standard based question, we have to support the answers with provisions of the accounting standards. All parts of a particular question should be attempted at one place. Necessary working notes should be given. As I have told you that whenever any question does not specify anything, like the question is of branch accounting, it does not specify which type of operation it is, or the question does not give you necessary information, like in disclosure of accounting policies question, which we discussed yesterday. Maybe some facts are missing. In that case, we have to give the answer by giving the suitable note for that. And we can simply state that this particular answer has been given on this basis. So we can justify our answer and we can get the marks accordingly. Now, what type of errors students generally commit? One is calculation aspect, where the students make mistakes, and one is conceptual understanding. Sometimes we do not understand the concept and we do not apply the concept while working the question in the examination. So those type of errors we should avoid. And regarding calculation part, we should be very comfortable with the calculator. Whatever calculator you are supposed to use in the examination, that calculator should only be used for practicing the questions before the examination, because your hand should be set on the calculator. Sometimes our hands are not set on the calculator, and due to which lot of time is wasted in the calculations. Many chapters like branch accounting, department accounting, and in fact investment accounting also, many calculations are involved. So we have to be very comfortable with the numerical portion. We have to be very thorough in calculations so that the marks due to calculation are not lost. And one more thing is that sometimes we are stuck up in one point and we make mistake in one particular adjustment. Due to that adjustment, there may be number of accounts in which that particular posting can be reflected, or maybe that amount may be used in further calculation. Because of that, the other calculations may also go wrong. So the twist in the question sometimes put us in state of confusion, which can ultimately be reflected in our answers. So we should avoid to be confused. We should try to be confident and calm while answering the questions in the examination. And we should be specific to the requirement of the question. And we should not give any unnecessary explanation or unnecessary answers. Sometimes in the question, like in redemption of Dementors question, generally the accounts are being asked. Sometimes the question may ask us to prepare the journal entries, or in some questions where the journal entries are being generally asked, the question may ask us to prepare the ledger accounts. So in these type of situations, we get a little bit uncomfortable while answering the question because we are not used to attempt those type of questions previously. We have not we have not practiced on those type of questions based on that particular requirement. So we have to be very careful before the exam, and we have to revise all the concepts just before the examination. We have to focus on all the concepts, and we have to do adequate practice of the questions, practical questions from the study material. This will help us in time management and attaining speed. Be careful while using the information given in the question for attempting the answers. So I think that this will the guidance given in this session will help you in attempting the questions. For preparing your concepts, for understanding the concepts and preparing your confidence, they will be very much helpful. And you have to be very confident. You have to be very thorough in all the chapters. You have to study the concepts from the study material, and then you have to practice the illustration given in the study material as well as test your knowledge questions. With this note, we would like to end up the session, and any of the queries you are having, you can ask to us through our mobile app also, and you can also ask to our accounting #enter@ICR.in mail ID. So these queries will be suitably answered in due course of time. I hope all of you will succeed with flying colors, and best of luck for your examination. Thank you. आने वाली है